Hey folks, your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish. I've been running these lazy DM prep sessions for my D&D Tomb of Annihilation game, mostly for my Sunday game, I think exclusively for my Sunday game, where we spend about an hour talking about D&D and going through the process of the Lazy Dungeon Master, specifically the process of Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. Today we are going to talk about my group and their their return to Port Nyanzaru after defeating the pirates of Jahaka Bay, and the crazy situation that occurred on their return from Jahaka Bay. You wouldn't think that getting attacked by Sahuagin and sharks and a hag would be such a big deal, but it was. It was my first character death. So there's something exciting to talk about. If you're in the chat, I have the chat window open. Feel free to bring up any topics you want to talk about, bring anything up, whatever you'd like to do. And while we're chatting, I will be working on the game. One thing I failed to do the last many sessions, I think, was to talk about what I did or didn't use for my previous week's notes. And the reason I don't do that is because I've often forgotten. I'm actually going to change my little setup here a bit. Oh, no, I'm not going to mess with that. That was a mistake. We'll just leave that the way it is. The question always comes up particularly I've heard the question about secrets. What secrets did I use from the previous game? And the answer is almost always, very few of them. But today we'll actually take a look. So specifically, this is last week's notes that I have up here on your left-hand screen. We had the strong start. We had what scenes will take place. So what scenes took place? We take a quick look through that. And they did return to Port Nyanzaru. They did not have the trial. They did have a little bit of downtime activities. They did not return to Hackhammer, and they did not have a dream of the Tomb of the Nine Gods. They kind of did. They didn't have a dream exactly. They had visions of the tomb while dying. Or not while dying, while dead, and while their soul is being ripped by the soulmonger into the tomb. So that was fun. So what secrets and clues might the characters uncover? A Sarac murdered the Nine Trickster Gods. That did not come up. Again, I don't know if the characters already knew that. They might already know that. Sarac used the power of the Trickster Gods to fuel his devious soulmonger. No. I think I did have images. I think I did describe. I take this back. I think I described images of some of the Trickster Gods getting shredded and ripped and stabbed by Sarac's minions and by Sarac himself. Sarac used the power of the Trickster Gods to fuel. Yeah, and that sort of came up. Older Ravengard didn't know that Porter was in league with the pirates. Older hasn't yet shown up. I think that might be the strong start for the next session. Hey, Grant. I'm glad somebody's here. I don't know who else is here. I don't have a list. It'd be nice if there was a way to keep a list of who was hanging out. There's probably some way to do that. I also want to talk to Grant about adding music to the background. Just a little bit, little background music, but I don't know about that. Some other time. So Older hasn't shown up yet. He's going to show up. Most of it is like how long they're going to spend hanging out in Port Nyanzaru for for Porter's trial. Sidra Sylvain is dying. This did come up. And both Wakanga and Sidra Sylvain, they saw that the death curse has spread, that it was a small patch on her arm, and now it's taken up most of her right arm. And she is in fact dying, and if they want to do anything about it, they must. They know that they are being followed. Hello, DeGaston83. Thank you for coming. So they know they're being followed by spies. They don't know that they're Night Serpent spies. And Dan, Grant actually knows people. I don't know screen names. I'm terrible at screen names. So they don't know that they're Night Serpent yet. I don't know when or how that's going to come up. Characters have gotten the attention of the Yuan-Ti. They haven't figured that out yet. That did not come up. Terrible creature grows in the depths of the Tomb of the Nine Gods. They do know about that. The guy who was dying got to see it. Omuians were enslaved by Sarac and built his terrible tomb over a century. That did not come up. Trickster Gods were not gods, nor were they mortal. They were primal spirits living between worlds. That did not come up. The Esho were a Cholton tribe that was nearly extinct by 1370 DR. That did not come up. Yes. Esho recently released, or had released a shadow giant called the Yoshodo, the Shadow of the Yosho, which attacked the holy city of Ubtao in Mesro. The holy city of Ubtao, which is Mesro. The reason why Yosho and Yoshodo matters is because that is the new patron of one of the characters. That player won't be there today. I just found out. That is Ogechi. I always forget. No, yeah, sorry. This player will be here. Punchy won't be here. Ogechi will be here. And Ogechi has a new patron that is a Shoto. So it'd be nice. This would be nice. In fact, maybe we can twist the whole Night Serpent thing around to make it a Shoto. A Shoto's return or something like that. This could be, that might be kind of neat. What if the whole Night Serpent worship was actually a Shoto? Or the reason why the Night Serpent folks were after Ogechi is because of a Shoto. There's something there. We're going to hang on to that. This is why paying attention to your characters is important. Ross Nisi is one of the chosen beret. I don't know what the hell a beret is. I don't know if that's even a word. One of the chosen Ubtao sought to wipe out the surviving Osho from Toril in retaliation. That did not come up, but I think that these are good secrets, worthy of. And then I put in a little link. So the question of about how many secrets actually came up during the game, the answer is about half. If I, without counting specifically, feels like about half, and that feels about right. You want more than you need. The whole point of writing down secrets is to help you feel prepared about your game, to give you things that make the game, give you like your own hooks that you can kind of throw out there while the game is running. Hello, Tilda. Welcome. Afternoon. Not for us yet. It's still morning. I don't have coffee. I drank my coffee. They make you feel good. They make you feel like you have prep. They give you things that you can throw out. They give you so this to me is a big part of the exploration pillar. Like what do characters learn when they explore was kind of an outstanding question. So secrets to me are the things that they can figure out while they're exploring. That was one of the reasons that I kind of fixated on them. Is combat felt really well refined. We know how combat works in D&D. Generally role-playing and interaction, we know like that's something else that's evolved well. But when they talked about exploration as one of the keys, it's like, other than finding traps, what exactly is exploration? What exactly happens when you're not talking to people or fighting? And Lazy Prep Doctor the Gamer and with Mercer. Cool. Yeah, I'd like to hear that. Grant, you should post that. I will retweet it. Post-mortem videos, I guess. Dan likes the post-mortem videos. Sorry, I get distracted while I'm reading. I guess that's the streaming way. Do I have the, yeah, I've got the right screen up. Whew. So, about half of them come up into play. They give you things to hook onto. They make you feel like you have prep, and because they're not associated, they're a good tool for improvisation, because when the characters do, zig left instead of right, it doesn't matter. You can drop these secrets in regardless of where the character's going, and that to me is what makes them so powerful. Exploration and discovery, right? But the question is, what do they discover, right? That's the tricky bit, and that's where I think secrets come in. Grant asks. Exploration is synonymous with discovery, and I think so. Exploration and discovery to me feel like the same thing. The question is what, and that's where like fantastic locations comes in, and that's where secrets comes in, and that's where like parts of the story. But those things feel hard to improvise, which is why secrets and clues. I'm pretty sure I could run. It depends on the game, and depends on whether it's a published adventure or not. But I could run a lot of it with just a strong start in the secrets and clues. I don't think I need everything else. A lot of that stuff either comes out in secrets and clues, or can be can be improvised at the table. All right, so that is what happened. Oh, so let me tell you what happened last game, because it was crazy. And I talked about this on the DM roundtable with Sam Dillon and Jeff Greiner earlier this week. Last week. It's a new week. So the party was traveling back from their new base on their new boat, and everything's fine, and then they start getting surrounded by sharks, and then a huge hammerhead shark smashes into the ship and creates this big hole in the ship, and the characters are freaking out, and they go down to deal with that. Some of them are up on top deck, some are down below, and they see the big hole, and they start to mend the big hole, and as they do, Sahuagin start flowing in through the hole, and now they're fighting Sahuagin, and there were 6 of them, 3 up top and 3 down below, 3 of them crawled over the side. You missed me talking about, Talex79 missed me talking about what happened, what secrets did I use in last week's game. But you can catch up on YouTube. This will be posted on YouTube later today. So they have 3 Sahuagins up top, 3 below. They're fighting Sahuagins. Our druid jumped in the water and turned into a Plesiosaurus to go fight the sharks, and that didn't go well because there's a giant hammerhead shark and 3 smaller sharks, tiger sharks or something like that down there. And so he was getting beat up, and then crawling over the side comes a sea hag. And the sea hag is a particularly nasty monster. I'm going to pull up. The sea hag has some nasty powers. So, not the highest challenge rating. I made her tougher than this, I think. She had more than 52 hit points, because she is one of the sisters of Nanny Poo Poo, who wants vengeance and had sought the party out to get vengeance against them. So the nasty bit was Gabriel, who is an Asimar celestial warlock, was flying up above the ship, and the hag gazed at him and hit him with the fright. Or he started, and he got a turn, but then, because I forgot, and then he gazed at the hag and became frightened, and then on her turn, she did the death glare. And the death glare hits people, anybody that's frightened gets hit by that, or they drop to 0. And when you drop to 0 while flying, you fall. And when you fall, you take a death save. A failed death save as soon as you hit the deck. So Gabriel hits the deck, is unconscious, and already has 1 failed death save. And her turn was 2 turns later, and she gets over the top of him and bites him. Her mouth unhinges like a giant snake, wraps around his throat and bites, and nearly bites his head clean off and kills him. And everyone's like, and there's that moment at the table where everybody's like looking back and forth to see if anybody's going to start crying. And they're like, wow. And they're all like, what should we do? We're going to, the druid didn't heal. Should he have healed? Should we roll back? And like, I don't know if there's any rolling back on this. So instead of kind of, feeling real bad and saying sorry, and he's like, no, it's cool. This is, Jay Marland is the player's name. He's a fantastic guy, great dungeon master. He's a local dungeon master in the Adventurers League here in the Northern Virginia area, and fantastic guy. And he said, it's cool, right? Because this is what happens. And no death saves. Right? He never rolled a die. He just 3 death saves, 3 bang bang bang. That idea that when a melee attack hits a downed character, does 2 death saves is really lethal in Tomb of Annihilation. So be careful to that. It's crazy powerful. Anyway, so he died, and we went around the turns, and everybody else is struggling because now they're 1 character down. Their healer is down, and they're really struggling. But every time it came to his turn, I talked about what was happening with his soul, how it's getting ripped across space-time, and how it's flowing, which should be going to heaven or wherever, and instead it's going down into the depths beneath Chult, and he's seeing these big machines and these huge unholy pipes and valves and gears and wheels and weird crystals and these screaming things, and he's seeing the 9 trickster gods getting murdered, and he's seeing all this stuff. He's seeing all this stuff. Yeah, he did roll 2 failed wisdom saves, and he's a charisma base. So I don't think wisdom is his. It's kind of funny because he feels so much like a cleric, but he's not. And they're DC 11. They're not super high, but it was enough. So he's seeing all this stuff happen to him, and then he sees the big nasty at the end, and he's like, oh my, I showed him a picture. I'm like, you see this? He's like, ah, and then he's dead. So the rest of the party manages to fight off. They kill the sea hag. The sea hag, another person, a rogue, was up in the top poop deck, way up top, and she can't see him because he's hiding with like a DC 26 or 26 stealth check. But she throws a lightning bolt up and hits him for 27 damage, and he comes smashing back down to the deck. Lands on the deck, and then she bites, and she's getting ready to bite him before she was killed, so he almost got killed too. That was really very lethal. And considering they had just fought vampires and nearly got killed, that was probably a little too hard. But it was fun. Anyway, so they finally beat everybody off. They kill her, and on her body, they find a little leather pouch, and inside the leather pouch are 3 shriveled hearts. They look like big shriveled dates. But they can tell that there's souls in them. Not souls of Gabriel or anybody else, but souls of people she's been carrying around with her in a little soul bag. And they say, well, can't we do some kind of ritual? We can probably figure this out. And I'm like, you can try. And so they're like, yeah, let's do some kind of ritual. So they drag Gabriel into this small part of the boat. They close the door and don't tell anybody. They draw out unholy circles on the ground. They take Gabriel's body. Remember, Gabriel's like this Asimar Celestial Warlock, a good guy, but they're doing this bad ritual. And I had in mind when Willow brought Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, back to life. And, you know, there's a scene where she's sitting there doing rituals and a deer comes up and she slaughters the deer. So they're kind of doing that. And I said, like, you know, I'm thinking, like, well, what's the, you know, how are they going to do this? Well, you know, they have a druid and he's going to use lightning to kind of fire through like Frankenstein. And they have all these ideas. And I'm like, okay, you can try this. And I'm like, but the DC is 20. And if it goes bad, it's going to go really, really bad. Like, it's not going to be good. And I had something in mind. I'm like, I know what's going to happen if this fails. And it's, you know, they're making a big choice here, big nasty choice. And they're like, no, we're going to try it. So I said, well, if you're all working on it, you can do it at advantage. You know, whoever's making the check can do so at advantage. It is DC 20, and you can lower the DC if every one of the 4 remaining characters uses a hit die worth of blood, i.e. they cut themselves and use their own blood to kind of fuel this ritual. That will lower the DC to 16. And they're like, okay. So they got it down to 16 with a blood sacrifice. And then they conducted the ritual and rolled the die, and they made it. And he comes back. Only now he's got a different soul in him, and it's a soul of somebody else. So he now has the memories of 2 different people in him. And he can remember everything about Gabriel, but he also remembers this elf that's 100 years ago, died 100 years ago. And now, you know, he's kind of going a little crazy because he's got these two things. I'm reminded of, what's the boy's name in The Gunslinger? I can't believe I can't remember the boy's name in The Gunslinger. But he, at one point in The Gunslinger, I think it's in Drawing of the Three, where he died and then died again, you know, and, you know, he has these 2 conflicting sets of memories. One where he went to school and everything was fine, and another set of memories where he went to the Dark Tower, went to the end world. Great books if you haven't read the Dark Tower series. So I heard the movie wasn't good. I haven't seen it, but the books are good. I should read them again. Yeah, so they got him back, but now he's kind of crazy. And I think like it did something else. Like there's probably some other dark spirit out there, you know, that caused this. Like it did something else, because that's a big deal. Like the fact that they can resurrect somebody in Schult after the death curse, you don't get that for free, right? Something really, you know, there's a cost that they have not yet faced. And I don't know what it is. If they had failed to save, it would have set off a circle of death. And the circle of death would have enveloped the entire ship. And probably, I don't know if it would have killed the characters, but it would have killed everybody else in the ship. It would have killed the whole crew. So this whole new crew of 24 people that they've got would have died. And, you know, that would be a big payment. So, you know, but they made the check, so all's cool there. So anyway, that's what happened. Then they got to Port Nyanzaru. They did some downtime activities. They're real interested in sort of buying magic items, but I'm using the magic items rules from Xanathar's Guide, and they don't like them as much as I do. I think the idea that you have to wine and dine people, and it takes weeks in order to figure out what magic items you can get available is really cool. They didn't like it as much. So I had Wakanga said, well, I've got a few items to buy, and I think they bought them. And then the part of it was they had to give Wakanga money for him to go get new magic items, because there's like a base cost in Xanathar's Guide. You pay so much just to wine and dine people, and Wakanga will do that for him. Watamu will do that for them. Wakanga, right? That's his name. I'm sorry, I just watched Avengers yesterday. So Watamu will do it for them, but they have to finance him. So yeah, that idea, right? Repercussions that hurt other people versus the characters. I find maybe they will find out that the death curse has escalated, right? They escalated the death curse, and now they really got to do something about it. Like, you know, maybe something. Maybe they'll go in and, you know, what's her name will be dead, one of the main characters, and she's like, something happened, you know, and there'd be like maybe the new Gabriel is a, you know, he's an accelerator. Right? He's an accelerator of the death curse. I don't know how they'll figure that out, but, you know. Yeah, man. Don't talk about Avengers. No spoilers. So, all right. Let's talk about. Yeah, right. You don't like the idea of walking into Yield Magic Shop. I like the idea that it takes weeks and you got to wine and dine people and you could fail anyway, and you can kind of alter it, but you got to throw money at it. And that's just to be able to buy them. And then they're random and then you still have to buy them. So the costs for Magic items are very high, but they should be really high. I don't have an issue with it. So I'm sticking with, even though the players are like, oh, they don't like it. It's like, this isn't 4th edition where, you got to have your +4 sword or you're behind. They don't need stuff, so it's sort of filling in the blanks, and it's also fun that, like, well, I got a silver raven, I got weird things, like it doesn't always have to be a +3 magical frostbrand sword. All right, so they are in Port Nyanzaru. Let's look at the characters. Let's actually get to work. 20 minutes talking about the game before. That leaves me 40 minutes to prep. What is the strong start? So they're in Port Nyanzaru. I think someone's going to die. Perhaps Syndra dies. What do you think of that? So the other thing that could occur, I think it's time for the assassins. So we'll do so I think the assassins of the Night Serpent are going to go after Ogechi because he is a follower of and I'm cheating because I'm looking at my old notes. The Asho, right? Goats or goat, are you having a session 0 for your starting campaign? If you are not, I highly, and I think many would recommend session 0s. Have a session where you just get together, make characters, figure out what the ties are between the characters and the rest of the game, tell them what they are, tell them what they're getting into, ask them loaded questions that steer their characters. The big question I always asked for Tomb of Annihilation is, what drives your character to adventure with others into the jungles of Chult to stop the death curse? Pretty loaded question. But it's a good way to steer your characters in the right way. And then how do you know the other characters is always a good question. And then you want backgrounds, but I've seen people who kind of write their characters and backgrounds. This is a very common problem. Or it's a common problem for me. I don't know that I can assume it's a common problem for everybody. But the common problem for me is that players make their characters in a vacuum. And they don't consider the campaign, being a little harsh, but they don't consider the campaign and they don't consider the other characters. And a session 0 can help you get past that. The session 0, if you say, don't come with a background, you can have a general idea, but keep it loose and be flexible, because when we're sitting there and you're hearing about the other characters at the table and you're hearing about the adventure, that's when the characters get built. I find for starting a session, and Grant says, in lieu of session 0, send primers with the big pitch, assumption, and establish token of the bomb. That's good too, and I've actually sent that out and then had a session 0. I actually do that. I did that for Tomb. I said, here are the big deals of Tomb, right? Here's the hook. Here is what is going to happen in this adventure. Here's what kind of adventure it is: exploring jungles and old ruins. And here are 6 things you ought to know, like 6 things about Chult you might not know. And then we get down in session 0, and people say, oh, well, I'm going to make a turtle, and the turtle is a scout and has been around in Chult and had a pet, and the pet died, and he knew that the pet's soul did not go to the right place, and wants to stop it, and will act as a guide, is happy to be hired as a guide by the other characters to go into Chult. So now he got a tie, he got a good connection. That's my wife's character, Shelby, who was not in this game. But if you look at what we have here, Warren, the gnome druid who wants to be a big beast, he's going to Chult. He's because he wants to be the biggest beast he can, and Jolt's the place to find it. Punchy, the Kenku Samurai. Honestly, I don't remember all their hooks. But they all have reasons to be there, and they're all happy. And now the hooks have gotten solidified over weeks. Anyway, so I think it's time that Yuan-Ti Assassins of the Night Serpent are going to try to capture Ogechi, because they want to bring him to the Tomb of the Night Serpent, Fane of the Night Serpent. And here's a secret and clue. There's a secret. So the Ashodo, to those not in the know, is a huge shadow giant that attacked. This is from, I did some research in this last time. That attacked Mesro centuries ago and was defeated by Ras Nisi, who then wiped out the Ashodo, the Asho, who are like a native tribe. He wiped them out. But the idea that Ras Nisi knows about the Ashodo and says, we could resurrect that thing. And since there's a soul, how can we bring back the Ashodo and have it attack Port Nyanzaru? Like, he knows about it. So that could be something he wants to do, but he doesn't know anything. As far as he knows, it's dead, but he felt a presence, and that presence is inside Ogechi, because Ogechi is connected to the Ashodo. I think that would be a fun character connection, that Ras Nisi personally is going after Ogechi. So assassins are going to try to grab Ogechi. They're going to shoot him with sleep arrows and try to kill everybody else with the assassin arrows. They're going to follow him around. I don't know exactly how that's going to happen. And in fact, I should look at, there's all sorts of Yuan-Ti. I sure am getting a lot of value out of that assassin NPC type, I tell you. We want monsters. They're not Brute Guard. Maybe a Mind Whisperer. Take a look at that. A lot of these I don't remember. I forget which ones can transform themselves into, look like humans. Yeah, so the Mind Whisperer. Oh, that could be a good one. Lots of different ways. Yuan-Ti Mind Whisperer. Purebloods. Probably about, what makes sense. If you were, so this is where we, right, thank you, Telex, Purebloods. If you were Ras Nisi and you said, I need to send a group inside Port Nyanzaru because I want to find that new warlock that I hear is connected to Ashodo, how many would you send? Right? You don't have 100, and you're not going to send 100 Yuan-Ti in there, and you're not going to send 50. You're not at war. You're going to send a small team, right? So Purebloods, you're probably 4. Right? A Mind Whisperer, they're expensive, right? You don't have a lot of those. So you're probably going to have one of those. And Malisons, I think, are... Yeah, those are like big tough guys, so I don't think there's any Malisons. Nightmare Speakers are nasty, but I don't think that's right. Two groups might be interesting. Yeah. A backup team. Yeah, that's a good idea. And we'll have an assassin. And maybe 4 more. And I might beef up some of these pure blood. You know, you might have a couple of thugs, right? Thugs and rogues. You know, fast, light, and then heavy hitters, sort of like Malice and wannabes. So that makes sense for an attack, and yeah. So then we think about the challenge rating on that. Challenge rating is pretty high, but they're level 6, so they're definitely going to take CR1s without a problem. And the thugs and rogues are generally going to be CR1s. The assassin will be high. They'll have to worry about that assassin, and they'll have to worry about the mind whisperer. But otherwise, you know, they'll feel like it makes sense, right? And Ross Nisi's like, wow, they're tougher than I thought. So without even looking at challenge ratings, I have an idea that if this is going to be a 2-phase fight, yeah, I think they're going to try to hit them while they're sleeping, maybe. It's a little tough because that's a pretty well-defended location. So, yeah, the idea that they're going to be, and most of them are going to be staying out of sight, right? They want to give themselves up. So I think it's the Mind Whisperer and the Assassin that will be doing most of the spying, and they'll be shape-shifting continually. This is that balance between, like, if you were really going to do it, how would you do it? And then what makes for a fun encounter? And I don't know, yeah. I mean, maybe they'll try to kidnap him at night, and then that'll go badly, and maybe there'll be a big battle in the end. I don't know where it's going to take place. But I know that that's going to be going on. That isn't necessarily the strong start. I think the strong start is that Syndra Sylvain is going to die. And they'll realize that something happened in the last 10 days that have accelerated the death curse. It's worse than we thought. And, you know, people now, it's starting, maybe it's even affecting people that aren't resurrected. Maybe, you know, it's people that have been, you know, wounded magically or healed magically. The magical healing is starting to fade. You know, and oh my God, that was us. You know, we did that. You know, I think that could be fun. So, scenes. Sydra's death. Assassins. And I think this is when, I think older. I wonder, of the characters, which one is most likely to be promoted? He might promote one of them. Or maybe he'll just replace Sidra. He's like, I'm going to have to stay here until this gets clean. Yeah, so they know that they did their thing 10 days ago. They know that it took them about 10 days to get to Port Nyanzaru, and the idea that, like, you know, the sage had been studying it and something happened, and they can even tell that it was something that happened out over the sea. You know, did they see something? You know, was there a huge storm? Did something terrible happen? Something bad occurred, and it's accelerating everything. You know, the clerics can feel, oh shit, that was us. That'd be fun. Right. That's a secret, right? That's a fun one. They're all fun. It's D&D. What is her name? Can I remember his name? Liana Portyr. All these NPCs look good. I'm gonna cheat. Yes, Jester, I will talk about the strong start. That is a good question. That's a good question, and you should read all about it in my book, Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, available this fall for $8. No, I'll tell you that. But you should get the book anyway. It's a good book. Putting a lot of energy in that book. I was thinking something, though. Scenes, the trial of Liana Portyr. and then return to the jungle. Strong starts. So what is a strong start? And why don't you just start? Yes, you can. And I often start by saying, who wants to describe what happened in last week's game? And then I can listen to the players. And that's my thumb on the pulse of what the players remember, what matters to them, what got their interest. And it's a clue to tell me, okay, this is the things that they like. They totally forgot about that giant backstory that I put in there. All that sort of stuff. So I start with that, but then I like to have a really strong starting hook. It doesn't always have to be, in media res, but that's not bad, right? Not bad is what is happening right now. And I'll give you an example of another strong start. Look at this, fancy. Let's go over to the Lazy Dungeon Master Workbook. We've been talking about this. I talked about this last session. And the Lazy Dungeon Master Workbook, this is the second book of the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master Kickstarter. Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master is the main book, talks about how to do the game prep that you're seeing now. The Lazy Dungeon Master Workbook are tools to help you run this. It's reference pages like this. It's random names. Look at all those random names. I actually read every one of these names out loud to make sure they sounded okay. Random trap generator, ancient monuments, items, and town events. So, let me get my dice. We're going to have what is going on in Port Nyanzaru right now. While I'm getting out my dice. So the idea behind a strong start is we don't want to, you want to start a game off with a bang, no matter what, whether it's in campaign or whether it's a single session or whatever. You want to really grab their attention. You want to do something that's like, wow. And it doesn't have to be about the characters, but it needs to be something that just pulls them right into the story. And that's hard to improvise. It's hard to improvise a cool one. You don't just say, well, like, okay, so you're on Port Nyanzaru, what do you do? Right? Which is real easy, but boring. Instead, you want to say, what's going on weather-wise? There is not a snowstorm in Port Nyanzaru. An ash storm? Maybe that. Maybe there's an ash storm. So we go to starting strong. Right, that's bad. What's the town's sentiment right now? 13. They are sleep deprived. No one is sleeping. There is a parade of vanquished foes. Yeah, so like this is like the dead kings, right? And if I recall, the backstory of Chult was that they used to have emperors who were real dicks, and now the merchant princes are better, and it's a meritocracy of sorts. So the idea that like they're taking these old kings and kind of mocking them, they have caricatures and going through the city streets, but meanwhile there's like ash falling from the sky, and people maybe everyone has like a similar nightmare one night. Everybody's got this one nightmare. That's a strong start, right? That's like, wow, seriously? This all just happened to us? What the hell? And it gets people into the game right away. So that's the idea behind a strong start is you don't just say, here's where we left off and here's where we're going. It's what's new right now. And even if you're in the middle of a scene, even if it's like, I think the last couple of weeks, it was like they knew they were going into the pirate camp. And there were, the scene, like we ended right on the way in. So it's like, well, we'll just start with that. But I was like, no, there needs to be something else that's kind of neat. So the kind of neat thing was they look out and they see that 2 more storms are coming in, and they know that those storms are tied to pirate ships with vampires on them. So they know, like, we got to handle whatever we're going to handle now, because 2 more pirate ships full of vampires and pirates are coming. That's a strong start. So at every session you can kind of say, like, what new thing do I want to insert into the game right now at the beginning of the game? And it also helps, a lot of this is just making us DMs feel more confident. And when you know where a game is going to start, you've got a strong start, you feel confident, and then it rolls from there. And then the characters do stuff, and then what they do, then you play with and improvise. So that's I hope I answered your question about why strong start is important. I find them very useful. Strong start and Secrets and clues, those are my bread and butter. All this other stuff is really good. Knowing who the characters are is really important. What scenes I kind of do. This is probably more of a feel good than useful for anything, because I put scenes down all the time that never happen. But this is more important if you kind of don't know and you're maybe running a one shot. You want to just have an idea of like what happens next if nothing real interesting occurs. You want to be able to move the game forward, but you don't need more. I mean, like, look, I've got one word: assassins. That's my prep for like an hour-long part of the game. Oh, that was long. All right, scenes, secrets and clues. What other secrets and clues do we have? I'm gonna cheat again. Normally, I handwrite all this stuff, so I don't get to copy and paste. But I'm stealing these 3 secrets and clues. Yeah, session by session. And, we're not talking like 20 minutes of prep for a session, for a strong start. The strong start can be assassins or Ash Storm. No one is sleeping. You really don't have to do a lot of prep. Yeah, you're in a tavern, but what's going on in the tavern? What makes tonight in this tavern interesting? What's happening? So the town event one, and the DMG also has a thing called they have something like this, but what's going on in the tavern right now? They're having a seasonal celebration, and that season is fall. So what part? They're having a fall celebration. With every celebration, they get shit faced, right? But what makes this one different? They have leaves around their heads while they're getting shit faced, right? That adds a little bit of flavor to it, instead of the kind of starting off. Here's another one, right? So if you're starting in the middle of a battle, which is always a great way, I some people have argued that starting and ending in situations like that is bad. I think they're pretty good. I've ended in the middle of fights. What changes in the fight? Does a fantastic monument burst forth from the ground? We'll use my ancient monuments table here. I need lots of dice for this one. I need 3 20s and a 10. All right, so roll the 3 20s. Does a gore-covered, otherworldly... I already like this. Gore-covered, otherworldly rock of domination. Gore-covered, otherworldly rock of domination. Burrow out of the ground in the middle of your fight. You're like, holy cow, a dominating, gore-covered, otherworldly rock just showed up, and I love it, and now I turn on my friend. That's probably a little bit much, but you get the idea. Put my dice away here. I have 3 20s in here. Do I need 3 20s? I guess I do. My dice, by the way, easyrollerdice.com. Great people, great dice. It's my traveler set. What other secrets and clues? Ross Nisi wants to resurrect the Oshodo to destroy Port Nyanzaru. Characters responsible for the escalation of the death curse. Older. Oh, okay. By the way, I'm going to drop back over to the main screen. Oh, look at that. I covered my own video up with my... Sorry about that. That looked weird, I'm sure. So Ravenclaw wants to set up a trial and an execution, and he wants to prove. Yeah, you saw my half head. That's all right. Professionalism. Grant would never make that mistake. Grant would know exactly where his face is in the frame. Not me. So Ravenclaw, one of the fun bit is that older Ravenclaw, who's the head of the Flaming Fist, is going to say this whole thing is terrible, and you guys need to tell the merchant princes of Port Nyanzaru that you were actually sent here to investigate this on the sly. I had sent you, and you discovered it, and you're the one bringing it forward on my behalf, and we are being open about this. When the truth is, he'd never told them any such thing. They're there for a whole different purpose. I think that'd be kind of cool. So they have to choose, like, oh, are we gonna screw over Ravenclaw? Oh, don't bang on the table. I learned that. I was listening to my own video. In fact, my microphone's real far away. God, I'm such an amateur. It's amateur hour here at Sly Flourish. It's like karaoke, but karaoke. It's like karaoke, but with Twitch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 7. What other secrets and clues? Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do next in this game. I think my other group is going to spend more time in Chult. I think we might go a longer game in that one. I'm hoping to kind of expand into Mordenkainen's and do some fun things. I could throw this out there. Four huge beasts. I think it's 4. A water, of air, a land, and these are from the let's see. Look this up here. Bring up a new tab. Does that show up? Whoops. You don't want to see that. Oh, what was the Magic the Gathering? What is this the right one? Yes. Hey, I love it. Thank you, Google. Google found it for me. So the world of Exelon. Now, you Magic the Gathering nerds probably know about Exelon. I know nothing about Exelon, but I read this before. I'll paste this for those of you that are interested. Yeah, sorry about the banging. I tapped the table. It's such an amateur. I'm just an amateur. This is where I got the idea for Vampire Pirates. You know, look at that guy. There's a Vampire Conquistador. Look at those guys. Badass. And there are, however, these huge monsters. Land of the Great River. Oh, look at the art, man. It's, you know, crazy. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm screenshotting that. That art is too good. Sorry. Oh, I can't screenshot it. I'll get it later. I'm going to get that for my game because that's awesome. Maybe that's the dream they all have. The bestiary. There are dinosaurs, but then there's these huge dinosaurs. That one's got metal parts. Sun's Avatar. Look at these guys. Yeah. That's right. There's these elder dinosaurs, right? They are CR 30. 30. The primal death, the primal hunger, the primal wow, there's 5 of them. Primal calamity. That's probably too many. Probably a C1. What's Dawn? Thick, sharp spines. I I've already had the thunderstorm follow. A Primal Dawn can fly. Okay. So we're going to have Zatalpa. Yeah, aren't they great? Like, but think about like aiming after these CR30 primal things. 3. What are they called? The primal. Zatalpa. Nizahal. And Tetsamak. Maybe that's the dream they have, right? Yeah. So the idea is like these creatures have always been around Chult. They're sort of worshipped, but never. They're not gods, but boy, they're as powerful as gods. But you know, maybe the death curse is going to awaken them if they don't do something. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna drop that in or not. We'll see. But I love that idea. This would be like you want to take it to 20th level. What's a 20th level campaign in Chult look like? Well, here's your bosses. They remind me of Final Fantasy. Remember the old Final Fantasy games had these like Titan beasts that you could beat after you defeated the main guy. You'd won the game, but there's these 4 things out there, and like they're the dares. You know, these are the dare monsters. What other secrets? I'm not gonna go back and look. So they're in Chult. They're getting, you know, Rosnisi and the Rosnisi lives. Here's a secret. That'd be a big secret. I think that's 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more. What is another interesting secret? We can do the one for the parade, right? Capitalism. That's the theory anyway. So that's part of that parade. Fantastic locations. I don't think I need any. It might be kind of fun. Is there a fantastic location that's already part of like where would the trial take place? In Port Nyanzaru. You know, for those of you who have read through Tomb of Annihilation, is there a place in Port Nyanzaru that is really cool? You know, like, wow, that place is neat. You know, is there a statue to an old? There's the ziggurats, right? Those are always cool. The ziggurats of the beggar princes. Executioner's Run is kind of neat. Maybe that's where they throw Liana Portyr. And maybe they have some beast eater. That'd be kind of cool. I'd like Liana Portyr to have a, you know, they throw her in the pit, and you know, everyone kind of thinks that she's this relatively soft commander, and she just like tears her breastplate off and picks up her broken sword, and she faces off against like a, you know, whatever the large version of the you know, Diamitris, right? And she fights it, and she mortally wounds it, and then mortally wounds herself. She's mortally wounded herself, but she kills the creature, right, and then dies. You know? And so it's like she actually can fight, and she fights to the better end, and people are like, man, she was kind of neat, you know. Golden Throne. And the Honor Guards. And Golden Throne is where everything will be taking place. Opulent. The Grand Souk Bazaar. Might be a fun place. That might be the place to get ambushed. It'd kind of be cool to get ambushed in the middle of a bazaar because you can't just drop fireballs. Temple of Savras. That might be a fun place. All right. NPCs, monsters, magic items. I need to ask them. I think they're good on magic items this time, so I'm not going to worry about that. I will ask, like, what do they think they're missing? All right. So these notes feel pretty good to me. I feel pretty confident about the game. I think it's going to be fun. I think we'll start with, I don't know exactly. I got, you know, I don't think the Yuan-Ti assassins are going to happen right off the bat. I think the parade of, there's a lot of things. Yeah. So Syndra's death that'll be a scene, right? I don't know that is going to be yeah, it's good. I think that's strong enough. And then they can sort of decide what they go. Yeah. Well, I don't know. If the Yuan-Ti have an attempt, if they're in the inn and they're having trouble sleeping, and the Yuan-Ti figured they would be asleep, that might be a pretty good time to get attacked. You know, we'll see. Might not be bad. I've actually got some. I got to bring my Yuan-Ti flat plastic minis. I have some. They're not flat plastic minis. These are printable heroes that I had that JP Creations turned into things that are very similar to flat plastic minis. They're really useful, and I've got to grab them up and throw them in because I think we're going to be facing some Yuan-Ti today. So what other D&D stuff is going on? We got a minute left. And then I gotta run. I should probably try to eat something before I go. Any other cool, interesting D&D stuff happening? Any other questions? Any questions or thoughts? Some really good questions today about, you know, fantastic, or about the Secrets and Clues and the Strong Start. Anything else in here that seems weird, or why the hell are you doing that, or what about X? How can you possibly prepare for your game and not have this thing in there? What do you guys think is missing? What kind of prep do you guys do that isn't this? that you're like, man, there's, that's fine for Mike Shea, but no real person does that. I'm mailing my own notes to my shelf. That way it's on my phone. I can just look at them. Yeah. What program am I using? Everybody asks that. It's Sublime. I use Sublime Text. It's a coding editor, but I like it for doing text stuff too. I wrote many books in Sublime. Like 5 books I've written in Sublime. When you prep your locations from a book, do you just read it to get the feel, or how many notes or references? I read it to get the feel. I write the note down just to remember to take a look at it, and then I use the book. I try to, the name of my text editor. I should just put it at the top. This is Sublime Text with a URL. If you Google Sublime Text, you'll see it. I just like working in text. I hate working in Word. I don't like to have formatting. It's much faster. Text editors are faster. It's cross-platform. I can use it on Mac or PC, and the output is text. So it works on everything. I believe strongly in using the books. I bring them with me. I have my backpack full of books, and it's kind of a hassle to carry, 50 pounds worth of books. But I like using them, and I'll use D&D Beyond as well. I find the books are usually easy to bookmark and kind of keep open, and I like them. I don't reprint my monster cards. I don't write down a lot of notes about places. I just use the book, and if I need a fantastic location and it's in the book already, I will read it from the book. And many times, even when it's not flavor text, you can still usually read the first sentence or so, and it gets across what this place is to your players. You can actually treat a lot of text. So here, right? Temple of Gond. The boxy stone Temple of Gond looms behind Royal Docks. It's popular among Port Nyanzaru's many artisans, craftspeople, smiths, ivory carvers, and hydro engineers. You can say that to the players. You're not giving up, the whole thing. So these things don't necessarily have to have flavor text all the time, and you can still sort of read them out loud, and they work. And I like that. So no, I don't write a lot of notes down. You said you'll use a place described in the module. Do you read from that or skim? Yes, I will read it. Sometimes I'll skim it. Sometimes I don't use it at all. Cities are hard because they have so many places. And it's even I've read them. I don't remember them all, and there's like 28 of them. So I might circle or highlight or underline and say and I also like to write in my books. Because I'm not archiving them for the next 1,000 years, or even if I do, my notes can be valuable. I won't deface them, but I'll circle ones and say like the inns are not easily found in the book. And I put big underlines around them, because I can never remember the name of the 2 main inns in Port Nyanzaru. One's the Gentle Repose, I think. But yeah, cities are tough. And somebody asked how do you do, what's a lazy Dungeon Master version of a city? And I don't have any good answer to that. What are the locations that are most interesting to the players are one. So where do they, where will they need to go? They need a place to sleep. They need to, meet up, something cool. A lazy one, obviously, in Fantastic Adventures, I have a city that I put in there that's really like a generic town, except for the fact that it has a giant stone hand sticking out of the center of it. And so 6 or 7 locations in a town I think is good enough, even if it's really big. Magic items. Do you ask your players point blank what they want and then later get it, or more abstract? I try to go abstract. I want to hear, I want daggers and I'd like better armor. That's what I'm looking for. And light armor. Remind me what kind of armor you want. Don't tell me you want a dagger of venom, and don't tell me you want a +3 longsword. It's better to, I would prefer that people generally want stuff instead of specifically want things. So I I think one of my characters has a dagger of venom, but she got it early, and it wasn't something that she picked. Again, this is a hard thing for people to grab. That in 5th edition, it's not like that. You don't kind of pre-build around the items that you get. The item, you should expect random items. I've seen people forge them though. I had a character who he killed a dragon, I think, and the dragon had runed scales that gave her the
capabilities of having robes of the Archmagi, and he said, I want to take those scales and make a robe of the Archmagi. And I was like, okay, let's go do that. And we did a whole side thing where he made his own robes of the Archmagi, dragon scale suit of robes of the Archmagi, which was pretty badass. But even then, like, the scales were the treasure, right? He beat a magic wielding dragon. Folks, I've got to run. I got to get to my game. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thank you for all the great questions. Really outstanding. And next week we will talk about what happens, and we will figure out where we're going next. Have a great day.